There's a number that kills agencies, and most people don't see it coming. It's the number of clients for whom your creative production breaks. For agency, that number is somewhere between 25 and 30 clients. You cross that line and suddenly your media buyers spend half their day in Canva instead of optimizing campaigns. Your freelancers are costing you 30 to 40% of your margins. And your creative output, the thing that actually moves performance, flatlines. This is the creative velocity problem, and today I'm going to walk you through a system for fixing it. I'm going to break down what creative velocity means as a formula you can measure. Then I'll take you through a 4-phase system that covers the full pipeline from product research to testing and iteration. And I'll show you why most agencies only focus on one slice of this and wonder why things aren't improving. So first, let's talk about what's happening on Meta and TikTok right now. The reason creative velocity matters more today than it did 2 years ago comes down to how the algorithms have changed. Meta's Andromeda update shifted the game. The algorithm now rewards good creative over good targeting. The key is feeding the machine enough fresh ads to find what works. Here's a stat that puts this in perspective. Meta's own research shows that the average user sees the same ad 4.2 times across their impressions. And once someone has seen your ad 4 times, the likelihood of conversion drops to about 45%. There's also a myth worth addressing here. A lot of people think that you need to warm up an audience before they'll convert. Meta's data says the opposite for direct response. There's no warm-up effect. The first impression is your best shot, which means if you're running the same 3 ads for a month, you're just burning through your audience. AdMetrics published a formula that I think every agency should know. They define creative velocity as the number of new creatives you launch per $10,000 of weekly ad spend. The sweet spot? Between 1.5 and 3. If you drop below 0.8, you'll typically see your cost per acquisition start climbing within 2 to 3 weeks. The real question is, do you have a system that can sustain this pace across every client every week? Most agencies try to solve this problem in one of 2 ways. They hire more people or they outsource their freelancers. Both hit a wall. Hiring is linear. You add 1 designer, you get 1 designer's output. And that person still needs briefs, feedback loops, and revision rounds. The coordination overhead eats into the extra capacity fast. Freelancers are worse on margins. You're paying $100, $150, $200 per UGC video. Do the math across 20 clients, each needing 20 to 50 unique assets per month, and that's a line item that can eat 30 to 40% of your margins before you've even touched ad spend. And here's the part nobody talks about. Both approaches solve production. The thinking side stays untouched. What angles should you test? What hooks will stop the scroll? What does the buyer actually care about? Agencies spend 5 to 10 hours per client per month just hunting for new creative angles. That's your most expensive people doing research work that doesn't scale. The real bottleneck is knowing what ads to make. So let me walk you through what a full creative velocity system looks like. I'm calling this the 4-phase velocity engine because every phase feeds into the next one. Skip a phase and the whole thing slows down. So phase 1 is product intelligence. This is the phase that almost no one does well, and it's why most ad creative is mediocre. Before you write a single hook or shoot a single frame, you need to know the product inside out. The reviews, the complaints, the competitor positioning, and the buyer psychology behind the purchase. Think of it this way. If your creative strategist just got a brief, make ads for this protein powder, they're starting from 0. But if they know that the top complaint about competing products is chalky texture, and that the brand's biggest positive review team is finally something that tastes like an actual milkshake, now they have angles. Product intelligence turns creative production from a guessing game into an informed process. You're building ads from real data about real buyers. Next is phase 2, strategic briefing. Phase 2 is where you turn that intelligence into a creative direction. This is your brief, one that says, here's the buyer persona, here's the angle, here's the hook framework, here's the emotional trigger, and here's why we think this will work based on the research. The agencies that run well have an approval gate here. The strategist or the client reviews the brief before anything gets produced. That saves you from the most expensive problem in creative production, making something beautiful that's strategically wrong. Logical Position uses a 70-20-10 framework for creative budgets, which works well here. 70% of your creative should be proven format and angles, things that have worked before. 20% should be variations and iterations on those winners, and 10% should be wild swing, totally new concepts you're testing cold. Your briefs should reflect that ratio. Most of them should be small iterations on things you already know work for that client. Phase 3 is modular production. So this is where most agencies start and stop, and it's why they struggle. Production alone, without intelligence and strategy, just increases speed. The modular approach works well here. Think of it like a Lego block. You have hooks, body segments, CTAs, and visual formats. So instead of building every ad from scratch, you mix and match components. One product photo can become 5 different ads, each with a different hook. One winning script structure can be adapted across 8 clients. Wi-Fi talents publish data showing that using 5 or more creative variation reduces fatigue rate by about 40%. And ad sets with 10 or more creatives tend to perform 2 times better over time compared to sets with fewer options. And phase 4, testing and iteration. The last phase is when velocity becomes a cycle rather than a one-time push. You launch your creatives, you read the data, and you feed those learnings back into phase 1. Which hooks stop the scroll? Which angles were converted? Which format, whether it's video, static, UGC style, performed best for this particular product and audience? That data tells you what to brief next week. Refreshing your creative every 2 weeks improves CTR by roughly 30% according to Wi-Fi talents. That cadence only works if the system behind it is running smoothly. If you're systematically cycling through test, learn, iterate. And here's what ties it all together. Brands that maintain good creative velocity, that 1.5 to 3 range, are seeing 30 to 50% ROAS improvements compared to brands that let their creative go stale. Now, building the system manually is doable, but it's a lot of coordination, a lot of hours, and a lot of moving parts, especially when you're managing 50, 20 to 30 clients. So this is where I want to show you what we've built at AdMove, because the 4-phase system I just described is basically what AdMove does as an AI agent. You connect the client store and AdMove automatically runs product intelligence. It analyzes the product, the reviews, the competitor positioning, and generates buyer personas based on what it finds. You don't need someone spending 5 hours digging through Amazon reviews. That step is handled. Then it generates creative briefs. You review them, your client reviews them, and you approve the direction before anything gets produced. That approval gate I mentioned in phase 2, it's built in. Once you approve, AdMove generates the ads, video ads, image, multiple hooks, multiple formats, and because it's working from the intelligence and the approved brief, the output is on brand and strategically grounded. For agencies, the multi-brand management piece is big. Each client has their own brand kit, their own creative history, their own approval workflow, all separate and organized. So the math is pretty straightforward. When you might pay $150 to $200 for a single UGC style video from a freelancer, AdMove generates the same kind of asset for a couple of dollars. Across 20 clients, that difference adds up fast. So that's the creative velocity playbook. 4 phases: intelligence, briefing, production, and testing. Skip any of them and the system breaks down. Get all 4 running together and you've got a creative engine that scales with your client roster. Now I'm very curious, where does your agency struggle the most? Is it the research and strategy side, or is it purely a production volume problem? Drop a comment below and let me know. If this was useful, subscribe for more breakdowns on how agencies and e-com brands can get more from their ad creative. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.